Hey guys, Alex Valia here, and in this video we are going to talk about Saturn's transits in Aquarius, which will take place between 2020 and 2023. Quite a lengthy presence of Saturn in this sign, and quite a significant one at that. Now, I did stream a video to YouTube on this topic, but seeing that Mercury had just gone direct, there were some issues with the information in that video, so I decided to do it again while I'm here and not upload it directly and watch it back before I actually do so. This is what this is. I'm going to try to give you the most useful and the clearest information that I possibly can on this transit. Now, since 2017, since December of 2017, Saturn has been transiting Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn himself. Now, from the 22nd of March until 2020, until March of 2023, Saturn will be transiting its root sign, one of its own signs, Aquarius, its second sign, right? Now, modern astrologers would consider Aquarius to be ruled by Uranus, which, if you've been following my social media, you know that for me, it is complete and utter nonsense. Given that Aquarius represents the structures of society and the collective and whatnot, to associate that with the disorder and dismay and chaos of Uranus makes no sense at all. So in this video, we are going to be talking about Saturn transiting its own sign, which just makes this transit all the more important. Now, first of all, we got to talk about what Saturn represents. Then we got to talk about what Aquarius represents. Then we're going to talk about the all-important issue of what this is going to mean for society. There is a lot going on in society at large right now, and a lot of it actually has to do with Saturn approaching the cusp of Aquarius. Saturn is making itself felt in Aquarius, and this is part of, if not most of, what all of this confusion is about in the world. So first of all, to recap, Saturn has been transiting Capricorn, one of its signs, since 2017, and there's a difference between Aquarius and Capricorn. Both of them represent one aspect of Saturn. And what is Saturn? Saturn, fundamentally, it represents many things, but fundamentally it represents boundaries and structures. Boundaries and structures. If you just know these two things about Saturn and what it represents, it should be enough for you to determine everything else that is ruled by Saturn. Everything else is just a ramification of this. Does Saturn represent time, right? Associated with the god Kronos, the god of time? Yes, because time is the structure or the boundary which keeps events in their proper place. It keeps things from happening all at the same time. It keeps things separate in the universe and in the universe's lifespan, I guess you could say. So is Saturn discipline? Yes, the discipline as being a structure of doing things, as being a set of boundaries in how we go about doing things, and what are the things that we do and what are the things which we choose to not do, right? So all of the things that Saturn represents are ramifications of boundaries and structure, okay? Wherever Saturn transits, it is going to bring an element of that. It is going to, first of all, check on the boundaries and the structures of that place, of the matters of that sign, and then of the matters of the house in our personal chart represented by that sign. Saturn does get a bad rep, right? Saturn does represent things like disappointments, like delays, like hardship, hard work, overcoming things with great difficulty and against great odds, right? So Saturn does get a bad rep in that sense, and definitely the things that the Saturn produces are not easy to manage by virtue of the most fundamental things that Saturn represents. Now, it is not meant to be easy, because if a boundary is easy, then it is not a boundary, then it is not keeping anyone back. If it's easy to traverse. That's by the very nature of Saturn that it is perhaps the most difficult of the luminous planets. But it is a luminous planet. It is one of the planets which we can observe with the naked human eye in the sky. It appears as a star traversing the sky, and that means that it is intimately connected to how life manifests on our planet, as opposed to some other planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which are not visible, which do not reflect light from the sun, light being the essence of life on Earth. And therefore, they don't rule signs. They don't. They have their own missions. They have their own things that they do, their own energy that they develop. But they are not the same as the luminous planets. Saturn is the slowest luminous planet, and what that means when in transit is that its transit is going to spend a long amount of time in the sign. This time around, from the moment it enters Aquarius this March, to when it exits in March of 2023, it's going to be 3 years. But of course, Saturn in 2020 is going to retrograde back into Capricorn along with Jupiter, and then it's going to enter Aquarius again together with Jupiter. So for this video, we're going to keep things simple. We're just going to talk about Saturn, but there is a lot to say about Jupiter's dance with Saturn, Jupiter joining Saturn in this transit. And there will be future updates. While we're on this topic, please do subscribe to this channel. This is a new channel. You can also find my previous video on Saturn transiting Capricorn on the Hybrid Astrology account, video uploaded in 2017, because it is connected to this one, because both of these signs, again, are ruled by Saturn. And so, as I said in 2017, I spoke about how Saturn transiting Aquarius is going to be a continuation and in many ways a result of the things that happened during Saturn and Capricorn. I spoke about how, two aspects of Saturn. Capricorn is about boundaries in terms of hierarchy, right? The structure of hierarchy, the boundaries of selecting things, of being selective, of being particular about things, about wanting to be separate from, I guess, from the things that we don't like, right? Capricorn is known to be quite selective about their status, their position, about various pragmatic things, especially because Saturn is it's the most pragmatic planet that exists, represents the root chakra, the chakra which roots us in the physical reality. So Saturn, a very pragmatic, a very down-to-earth planet. Even though it's very far from the Earth, it's a down-to-earth planet. So I spoke in 2017 about how Saturn in Capricorn is going to test a lot of the political boundaries and structures. It's going to reorder the political structures in the world, because Capricorn does represent the summit. It does represent the higher echelon, the leadership, the status, the hierarchy, right? So the hierarchy, the political realities, we spoke about how they are going to be restructured, how they're going to be tested, how they're going to be scrutinized by Saturn. I'm going to leave it up to you if that has happened in the last 3 years or not. But quite obviously, there has been a lot going on in this sense. And I also spoke about how all of these restructurings of the political reality, of the political scene, of the hierarchies and so forth, are going to directly decide what is going to happen when Saturn goes into Aquarius, which is a different side of Saturn, which is the structure of society, the structure of community, the limits, the boundaries, the rule sets of communities, societies, collectives, right? That is what Aquarius represents, the people. Opposite from Leo, which is the king, the leader, Aquarius represents the people, the masses, the society, the collective, the communities, right? So now, a lot of the political changes and activities that have been happening over the past 3 years are going to be felt by the masses. Up until now, it's been mostly TV, right? It's been mostly about, oh, this politician, that politician, they passed this bill, they passed that law, they're having, disagreements, they're having cold wars, they're having, or maybe even hot wars, right, in some areas of the world. But most people on the planet, the vast majority of people on the planet, have not really felt the consequences of all of this political whatnot. Now, in the next 3 years is when we, the people, start to feel the effects. And what are the effects? Well, Saturn brings boundaries, Saturn brings structures, and it's going to scrutinize them in Aquarius. It's going to scrutinize the structures, the boundaries, the systems of the collective, of society, of the people, right? Everything that's faulty in terms of the structures of society is going to get tested, is going to get scrutinized, and the things which aren't proper, which are where the boundaries are faulty, where the structure is faulty, are going to collapse like a house of cards. And we're starting to see that with the coronavirus. We're starting to see, right, Saturn represents limitations, Aquarius represents the people. We're starting to see limitations in, travel bans because of the virus. We're starting to see lockdowns. We're starting to see events getting canceled. We're starting to see precautions of all sorts. We're probably going to start to see austerities. Now, the economies are going to suffer, which is going to limit the collective even more. And it's not necessarily that the coronavirus is going to be on for 3 years. I think that the coronavirus is going to be an off and on thing. It's going to retreat, and then it's going to appear again, perhaps in a mutated form. But besides the coronavirus, there's probably going to be other issues, similar or not. And there is going to be a lot which is going to bear down on the people, on the collective, during the next 3 years. And it is all about, we can perceive these things as being bad. Well, it's bad because it's lockdown. I can't travel to this place, or I'm afraid to go to this place. I'm afraid to go to the supermarket for fear of the disease or whatnot. But the thing is that if you pay close attention, you will see that Saturn is beginning to reveal where the structures of society are faulty, where institutions of society are faulty. I was just looking today at Italy's case, where the medical system is failing. The medical system is failing, and they are registering very high numbers of deaths. Why is that? Because in Italy, and I know this personally because I've spent a lot of time there, in Italy, they like to, and not just in Italy, across the Western world, they have this system of keeping people alive as plants. Now, I'm sure that maybe some of you have perhaps relatives who are in that situations, and nobody wants to lose a relative, but they're keeping people alive beyond their beyond their time. Right, so people that are just simply plants, it's a pain to see them. They don't even remember who they are. They're being kept alive artificially for years and years and years on medications. And now, here comes the coronavirus, and the authorities in Italy are saying, well, we cannot try to save these people. We cannot try to save these people because other people who are savable may die if we give our attention, if we give our resources to these people, which possibly would not have been, let's not say should have, would not have been alive in the first place had we not put so much resources in keeping them alive artificially. So that's collapsing right now, and it's going to collapse in other areas and in other parts of the world, not just in the health sector. Economies, political systems. This will be a time for reorganizing those institutions, those systems which will find the proper system to reorganize themselves in, or who were already organized in the proper way, will find it easier to deal with the next 3 years and the realities of the next 3 years. Otherwise, all the things that were faulty, all the things that were corrupt, especially corruption, is going to be something which is going to an institution which has been corrupt is going to suffer massively over the next 3 years. And the unfortunate part of that is that many people are going to have problems as a result, besides the institution itself. But obviously, we cannot keep faulty things forever, and that's when Saturn comes around and says, no, this cannot stay. And when Saturn says no, no is no for Saturn. There is no way around Saturn's no. There is no way around Saturn's scrutiny. And when Saturn scrutinizes, it is quite merciless. It is quite unrelenting and merciless. It has all the time in the world because it represents time. And so you cannot really fight the effects of Saturn. You can try. It's going to be difficult. You are eventually going to be forced to figure out a new system if Saturn makes one system collapse, right? So that's going to be very important over the next 3 years. I chose to speak most on this because obviously it's a hot topic. Not just now; it will be hot topic throughout this transit. Now, there are other things to talk about. Again, I will be back here with updates. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to turn on that bell. You can find my updates on Instagram as well at Unified Astrology. If you want to understand how this transit relates to you, I am going to talk a bit about that. Go to Instagram and find the transit graph. You may have to scroll down a bit depending on when it is that you're watching this video. After all, it is a 3-year time period. I may upload a lot in the meantime, but scroll down if you have to and find Saturn in Aquarius on Instagram. There's a graph attached to it, and that graph is going to help you understand how to apply this information that I just gave you in this video and that I will give you in the post, how to apply it to you personally based on your sun, moon, and rising signs. A very efficient graph, I think, for people who are knowledgeable of astrology and not so knowledgeable of astrology alike. Now, especially looking at that graph, figure out what area of your chart Aquarius is. If you have any placements in Aquarius, is your moon in Aquarius, is your Venus in Aquarius, these things are going to manifest in those areas. Of course, the condition of Saturn in your natal charts is going to matter a lot. So, for example, whatever house Saturn is going to be transiting in your chart is going to be tested in terms of its boundaries and structures. Just like on the collective level, on the personal level, it's the same, just that the reality differs a bit because it's the individual level, not the collective. So wherever Saturn transits is going to test your boundaries. It's going to test the rules that you apply to that area of your life. It's going to test the structure, the arrangements that you have working in that area of your life. And where things are faulty, Saturn is not going to be very, very kind to you on those things. Let's just put it that way. Saturn is going to be quite unkind about pointing out that, hey, this is not working. This is working just because things are good. If push comes to shove, this would not work for you. Saturn is always going to show you that whatever it transits. Of course, certain planets in your chart may cope better with aspects or conjunctions or transits by Saturn. The moon isn't particularly happy for Saturn transits. Other planets like Venus may be a bit more comfortable with Saturn, even though Saturn represents the opposites of anything that could be related to comfort. Venus is a more mundane planet. Mercury is a more mundane planet. They may be more comfortable with Saturn. But when I say comfortable, it's just that it's easier to make the results of that be more positive, not that it's easy at face value. At face value, Saturn is always difficult, okay? There's always some challenge, there's always some difficulty, and it is very important for us to become more disciplined, more serious, more hardworking, and more perseverant in the things that Saturn is influencing in our life at the current moment and in general, right? Now, the extent to which one is able to do that, one is innately able to be disciplined, serious, hardworking, perseverant, depends on your natal Saturn. Where is your Saturn in your birth chart? Is it in a good sign? Is it in a good house? For Saturn, earth signs, even air signs, tend to be better, but that's just a rule of thumb, very general. A lot goes into the assessment of whether a planet is good or not. Certain houses tend to do better, such as the 10th house tends to be better for Saturn, the 11th house, 6th house tends to be better for Saturn, even the 3rd house, depending on the sign and whatnot. 7th house can be really good, again, depending on Saturn's dignity, but then again, that will be good overall, but can be a bit disappointing in terms of relationships and whatnot. So gauge your natal Saturn. If you do need help with that, you know where to find me. You can find the links down below. Book me for a personal consultation. I'd love to talk to you and help you figure out anything that you may be in need of. But you can figure out what the area is for yourself. As always, I do recommend using the whole sign house system. I'm not going to get in a rant here about how absolutely faulty and nonsensical the Placidus house system is, which is the house system that most calculators online and most astrologers or astrology adepts or practitioners use. It is the faultiest house system possible. Why does everyone use it? Why does everyone drink soft drinks? Why does everyone, get addicted to painkillers? Because the thing that most people do is most often not necessarily the best thing to do. So use the whole sign house system to figure out what Aquarius is in your chart, not just from your rising sign, but also your moon, your sun. Again, the transits graph on Instagram is going to help you do that. Become more structured, more disciplined, more hardworking. Expect some hardship. Do not, under any circumstance, try to avoid the lessons that Saturn is trying to bring to you. You cannot avoid Saturn's lessons. Not really. I mean, you can kind of wiggle yourself around them to some extent, but not really, because Saturn is patient. Saturn may let you get away right then and there, but the repercussions are going to be far extending. You do not want to deal with the repercussions of trying to skip Saturn's lessons. So, guys, much more than for the individual, it is important to understand that Saturn transiting Aquarius is going to have very important consequences for our society. This is a crucial time for our collective, for our planets, for our species, for our political, economical reality. The next 3 years are going to be crucial. A lot of new types of structures are going to emerge in terms of collective realities, a lot of new types of institutions, a lot of new political arrangements, for the better or worse, are going to appear. There is definitely a lot to talk about, and we will be back here to talk about more at the right time. So thank you very much for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell. If you have any questions whatsoever on this transit or astrology in general, leave them in the comments. I would love to have more to talk about. I would love to know what are the questions that are on your mind and maybe attempt to answer them for you and help you gain more clarity. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.